¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. Derry Bennett, how's it going? Yellow King, welcome. Heat, how's it going? Sorry, it's been a difficult, 2 weeks, being off and on, but it is what it is. In any case, we're trying to get back to normal schedule. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. How's your cat? Everybody's doing okay. Everybody's doing okay. So if you're not on the Discord and you don't know what that's about, during the weekend we found a poor stray kitty cat, and he decided to show up. He decided to show up at our house, and we took care of him for a little bit. He's still with us. In fact, I'll bring him on stream before I go just to show him, because he is getting adopted out to some wonderful folks who seem to be cat people. So that's good. Yeah, apparently, like the day after a thunderstorm, we were outside, and sure enough, the little poor kitty cat. He's very young, very very young. He might be maybe a year old. He's definitely still a kitten. We've tried to reach out into local Facebook pages to see if it maybe belonged to somebody, because it was super friendly. Poor thing. And no one has said that this is their cat, so we took him to the vet yesterday, which is why I couldn't stream yesterday. We took him to the vet. They scanned him for a microchip. He's not chipped, and he's not neutered, so it's quite possible that he might just be an incredibly friendly stray cat who lost his way, and found himself at our house. I don't know, but in any case, since it doesn't seem like we'll find who he belongs to, assuming he even belongs to anybody, doesn't have a collar, doesn't have a chip, nothing. We did find somebody that would take him, and he might be dropped off this weekend. Yeah, he found the right home. That's right. How's it going, Heat? I just have my 3 spooky black cats. People are superstitious about black cats, and they don't adopt them oftentimes. Yeah, that's an unfortunate reality. That is an unfortunate reality. But yes, he found the right home. We took care of him, and right now he's having the time of his life. He's just lounging about in the basement. He's got food, he's got water, he's got cat toys. He really is an incredibly sweet cat. That's why I was convinced that he belongs to somebody, because he was just so friendly. He's just so friendly. Hopefully we can get an intro before he gets adopted out. Oh yeah, I can bring him on stream. I can bring him on stream at some point today. Blue Brother, welcome. Good evening. And again, it's not evening for you after all. May I ask about your time zone? I just realized I never asked before. This is Eastern time. So right now it's just over 5:20, 5:24 right now. So it's Eastern time. In any case, yeah, I'm gonna bring him on stream. He's right outside. He's in the garage, or not in the garage, in the basement. Unfortunately, he had to be completely separated from everybody else because neither of the two cats, neither of the 2 other cats are having it. Neither of them are thrilled about the 3rd cat. So, yeah. We're also treating him for worms. Are your other two getting along any better? Sort of. Sort of. That's like you think you're making progress one day, and all that goes out the window in fractions of a moment. Oh my goodness. I don't know if it's Vaquita that I don't know if it's Vaquita that will just never accept another cat. Because Buddy's already cool with her. Buddy's been cool with her. Buddy has been cool. Um Buddy has been cool for months now. He does not care about Vaquita at all. But yeah. In any case, shout out to Jane Doe for the follow. Thank you so much for the offline follow. I appreciate it. We sometimes raid into their stream. All right, folks. I gotta get this. I gotta get this show started. Before we get started, please, if you want to support the channel, make sure you hit the follow button. It really does help us out. If you're on the YouTube, I see you. Thank you guys for supporting the stream on the YouTube. Keep liking the stream. Keep subscribing. It really does help us out. Consider checking out the merch store by hitting !merch. Don't forget to join the Discord, folks. There's wonderful people in the Discord, and we do monthly movie activities. So make sure you join, and you can participate in that. All right, folks, let's get started. I think we should probably start here, yeah?
And I worry very much that President Biden is putting himself in a position where he has alienated not just young people, but a lot of the Democratic base.
Senator Bernie Sanders was on CNN to discuss these campus protests, the ongoing mass atrocities being committed in Gaza, as well as how this relates to Joe Biden. Now, I'm going to get to 3 clips here. The way that especially he gets to or discusses Joe Biden's role in this, I have to imagine, but I mean, Bernie knows Joe Biden. I'm sure they have conversations. I'm sure he's tried to get through to him privately, but the fact that he is going public with a statement like this, I have to imagine he's having a tough time getting through to the...
Also, like, I think this is relevant because Bernie Sanders just announced that he is seeking re-election as a senator. So I feel like this is like pretty relevant stuff.
Obvious ideology that Biden has on this topic in a way that he doesn't really have for a lot of issues, because Biden up to now has largely been able to is very...
Oh yeah, could you just give a quick introduction to the clips you're gonna play? Yeah, so this clip is Bernie Sanders basically giving a warning to Joe Biden about the election and the dire situation politically that Joe Biden has found himself because of his unequivocal support for Israel. So Bernie Sanders is giving him essentially a warning, and that's what this is about. Yeah, he's definitely choosing a side.
Very malleable in the sense that if public polling shows a certain thing, he will then do something to support what the public supports. For example, the recent rescheduling of cannabis or student debt cancellation. Like, there are things that he has been moved on, but on Israel, he is unmovable up to this point. So the hope here, I would think, is a message like this getting through to Joe Biden, or at least platforming this.
Spoiler alert, it's not happening. I mean, well, I think it is, I think that the most likely outcome is that it doesn't reach Joe Biden. I'm gonna be honest. No shade, no shade to David Dole, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's not going to reach Joe Biden, and if it does, it'll be way too. It's already way too late, I should say. At this point,
idea and trying to get into his head. So I'm going to start here with his first comments.
That being said, like, listen, that being said, it is the correct thing to do. Whether, you know, regardless if Joe Biden listens or not, the pressure, whether it's coming from inside his party, as well as people protesting this, that needs to continue, regardless of whether or not it's going to actually change Joe Biden's mind, or whether he's going to receive the message. It doesn't matter. You have to keep, trying to continue this message. This isn't for Joe, it's for the voters. True. That might be, yeah, you might be right.
Obviously, America has massive leverage because of its very strong, full-throated, shoulder-to-shoulder, all those words, alliance with Israel and all the billions of dollars that it sends. But do you think the students are reacting to the fact that their government does not seem to be using any leverage?
Yes, of course they are. Look, it is one thing if a terrible tragedy or a terrible war takes place in some part of the world where the United States really has no involvement. That is not the case in Gaza. The United States of America has historically and is right now, the legislation that you talked about, we're talking about over $19 billion more dollars going to Israel, including $10 billion in unfettered military aid. So, of course, the United States government has the right to say...
Yeah, like, this point, I think that it automatically rebuts any of these, like, wild takes that I've seen, particularly wild takes from liberals who say, like, oh, well, you know, why are people just so focused on this? You know, there's so much, and it's not just liberals, but most of them, most of the insufferable takes I've seen in this fashion have been from liberals. But anyways, oh, well, you know, you're so concerned about Gaza, and there's a genocide happening over here, and there's a genocide happening here. Yeah, and it's bad. The difference is that the government here, the United States government, has a direct role here, right? How do I just say stuff with confidence and hope something sticks? You know that song, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am stuck in the middle with you. Yes.
Say to Netanyahu, guess what? You're not getting another nickel unless you let humanitarian aid go in, unless you stop the imminent famine which we are seeing, unless we move toward a two-state solution. When you are...
Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution. This is abundantly clear, not just because we say so. He says so. Netanyahu himself. Like, we have to understand, like, where this is coming from. Netanyahu is not going to stop. Netanyahu has no incentive. Netanyahu has no incentive to stop. Okay? Literally, Netanyahu has all the incentive to keep going. Okay? Bernie is saying exactly what he needs to finally. Yep.
You are paying the bills you call the tunes. Has the United States government done that? No, it has not. And I think students and the American people understand that that is very wrong.
All right. So for anyone that's been following this, this is a very obvious point, but it is one that is often not discussed in the coverage of what is going on, especially in the coverage of these campus protests, because there's often this retort or this criticism, oh, why are these students so focused on Israel? It's because.
Right. Yeah, like, see, David just kind of goes over the same point that I did. Because I've seen a lot of people have this take, like, oh, well, why is the left suddenly talking about Israel and Gaza? Why are they suddenly so concerned? Dude, it's because at least here in the United States, we have a direct hand in what's happening. That's why. That's why.
The U.S. government is funding Israel as they are doing this. It is because their universities, their finances are intertwined with Israel as Israel is committing these acts. This is.
Yeah, and like I was thinking about the other conversation the other day, and they were saying like, oh, well, who cares? The students protesting, are blocking people's way that they have a right, because they pay tuition. Yeah, so do the students. The students that are protesting, so do those students that are protesting, and they don't want their tuition money that goes into the university being tied up in this. Even if it's something small. Like a university, it does not matter if that's within their sphere, that they can, they have some sort of voice in, then I think that's fair. How could a two-state solution ever work? There are way too many factions, fractions involved. We're not talking about a two-way, but a multiple state solution. I mean, like, I think colloquially, we basically just what people mean by two-state solution is just like, okay, the Palestinians have a right to self-determination, and that means giving them and recognizing them, as a state. Maybe within Palestine, you could argue that there are going to be different sections, but just broadly speaking, what we mean is just like the Palestinian people deserve a right to self-determination, and they do deserve a state, and they do deserve to be recognized. Is Bernie up for re-election? Yeah, he is. He is running. He is running for re-election. Saying this is correct, but he had to say it as it is his brand.
Why the focus is where it is. So,
watch what protein shakes do to your body.
Whoa!
This is a protein drink. You've got almond butter. Almonds have a peel that's a lectin-containing.
One of the dumbest criticisms I've seen since the beginning of this is, why aren't people protesting to bring the hostages home? As if, what? Is the U.S. government, are they the ones funding the individuals holding the hostages? What is the pressure point there? What would be the point of protesting what your government is already trying to do? Not to mention, this context is incredibly important. It is the Netanyahu government that are the ones that are rejecting the ceasefire.
Right. And for Netanyahu's, for Netanyahu's sake, it is not in his interest to stop this. The moment this stops, accountability is coming. The moment this all stops, accountability is coming. So it is for his benefit that he continues down this path. If that means opening up fronts with Hezbollah, so be it. If that means constantly trying to goad Iran, then so be it. Anything to remain in power. That is Netanyahu's prime directive, prime motive. It doesn't matter how many civilians. He doesn't make no mistake. He doesn't even care about the hostages of his own people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He needs to go. he needs us to go into a full-blown regional war to stay out of jail. Right. The moment this is all over, accountability is coming. And he knows that. He knows that.
It's already been accepted by the other side. And I did a previous video on this where there's several instances of a ceasefire deal being on the table, and it is Netanyahu being the one that is rejecting it. There's even a case where the families of the hostages came in to the Knesset and were essentially protesting Netanyahu, trying to get him to support the ceasefire deal, and he wouldn't do it because it is in his political interest, if he wants to remain in power, to continue this ongoing.
Correct. My last message wasn't posted. Did I make a mistake? I have no idea. I didn't see anything. You know, Twitch's automod stuff that does some wonky stuff because you're not the first person that this has happened to. Yeah, if you can't see any message, I can't see any message. I don't know. Twitch does this thing. Twitch's automod feature does this thing where sometimes like it'll catch things in automod and it won't even let you or any of the moderators even see it because I have nothing on my end. And if the if Heat doesn't have anything either, then I don't know. Twitch is just being, Twitch. I can't. I don't even know. I don't even have anything to reference. It doesn't even pop up as a hey, approve or deny this message like it should. If automod catches something for any reason, and sometimes it's absurd for nothing, but in any case, it should show you what the message is, and sometimes it doesn't. You're not the first. You're not the first person that this has happened to. It's just Twitch chat.
Going bombardment as he's being propped up by a far-right faction.
Friendly fire.
So to understand here, why this has not ended, why the hostages aren't home, it's because of the Israeli government. Now let me get to the next clip here. This is a really good Bernie gets into connecting the history of student protests and also his own experience with that as well.
Where do these protests fit in the history of American student protests?
They're a pretty classic staple, okay? The first thing that comes to mind is the Vietnam protests.
Look, and I must tell you that as a young man, I was involved in civil rights demonstration. I was arrested in taking over the administration office at the University of Chicago because there was racism and segregation going on at that time. The truth of the matter is, if there had not been protests and sit-ins and demonstrations, we would not have made the progress we have made in this country in combating racism and ending the apartheid form of government that existed in many parts of the country. If there had not been millions of people, mostly women, coming out into the streets and saying that they are sick and tired of being second-class citizens, they want a right to control their own bodies, we would not have made progress in the struggle for women's rights. If we had not had demonstrations saying that we've got to end homophobia in America, would not have made the progress we have made. Demonstrations is what, and the right to dissent, the right to protest, that is what the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States is all about. That's what, in fact, makes you a free country.
True. So many religions consider the city of Jerusalem as important to their religion, at least Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. Yep, that's true.
More important context. And I got to give credit here to CNN's Christian Amanpour because
the new Macklemore song pretty much hits the head on the nail. Okay, we'll play a small fraction if we can, just so that we don't get too DMCA'd, or maybe we've got this here.
Yeah. The people, they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting and want a piece? The problem isn't the protests, it's what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police.
Ah! Okay. Nice.
Because not a lot of other shows or anchors are allowing the space for this sort of reality to get out there, for this context to get out there. This is very clear. And it has been wild to see just the level of propaganda that I'm seeing from politicians and media. And of course, I'm used to seeing them spew garbage all the time. But the level of propaganda focused on vilifying these student protesters when it is so clear that they are correct, when their demands are very clear and how they relate to previous student movements. All of this is very obvious now. You don't have to wait 20 years to see who's on the right side of history. It is very clear right now. It's clearer than it's ever been. This is Bernie back in the 60s, when students like him were being vilified for standing up for human rights. And, you could maybe use the excuse back then that access to information was low. If you grew up very sheltered, very siloed in your own suburb, and you didn't.
David covers it too. You read some of the lyrics. Nice. Wait, homophobia has ended? Yeah, it ended when Bernie Sanders became a senator.
Interact with different viewpoints or different kinds of people, different races, then maybe you would grow up just not understanding this sort of movement, this sort of fight for civil rights. There is no excuse now. The information's right in front of us. And it's, if you want to see what the students are fighting for, you can go look it up. It's on their sites. All of this is very clear. If you want to understand the conflict better, the information's out there. So to be on the wrong side of history now, there's just no excuse. Which goes again to a lot of these politicians, this media, they know they're full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it works. It works. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you have access to more information than we've ever had, period, in humanity. It doesn't matter. Propaganda, misinformation, lies, all of that works. It still works. That's the sad reality. That's the sad reality.
Shit, but it is their job to push a certain line, because at the moment a lot of these protests are challenging the very corporations that they themselves, at these large media corporations.
What kind of information do you want? They have all kinds, right? They have information, they have misinformation, they have disinformation. Yeah. Oh, like that Bo Burnham song, Welcome to the Internet. True.
Are intertwined with as well. So they have a vested interest to ensure that they are vilifying these protesters. And this is, again, a common theme throughout history. Very rarely do you see, whether it's the massive media, like mainstream media, or most politicians, very rarely are they on the correct side of history from the start. It takes protests like this to move society. This gets to Joe Biden and how Bernie relates what is going on now back to his presidency and the election.
Well, in terms of his campaign, I am thinking back, and other people are making this reference, that this may be Biden's Vietnam.
Yeah. Yes. Not maybe. It is. They don't care to be on the wrong side. As long as there's enough people to go along with that BS, meaning votes, they won't care. Yeah. Not disagreeing there. They don't care that they're on the wrong side. As long as there are enough people to go along with the BS, meaning we'll vote for them, they won't care. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that is largely true. And even then, like I think even more, I think even to add to that, I think that they don't care to be on the wrong side so long as they have, so long as they have the corporate capitalist support structure behind them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Lyndon Johnson, in many respects, was a very, very good president. Domestically, brought forth some major pieces of legislation.
Right, like the Civil Rights Act. However, they've learned nothing from 2016. Yep.
Chose not to run in '68 because of opposition to his views on Vietnam. And I worry very much that President Biden is putting himself in a position where he has alienated not just young people, but a lot of the Democratic base in terms of his views on Israel and this war.
Yep. Bernie is 100% correct here. And it is enough. Like, given the fact that, like, it's welcome by Pedal Meatbag, by the way. Given the fact that it's already, it's already an incredibly close election, which, like, man, this is embarrassing. Man, this is embarrassing. The fact that you are already neck to neck. Wait, come back. The fact that you're already neck to neck with somebody, with somebody who's literally facing 4 trials, some of which for election tampering or because of, what happened in 2020. He's facing 90-something, felony counts, 91 or 92 felony counts, something to that effect. The fact that dude is already like neck to neck with you, and you just can't afford, okay, to lose that many of your base. Why should they learn anything from 2016? Trump teach them that it can work. Well, once. Biden's only chance is the Republicans have Trump. Maybe. Like, literally the Democratic Party is like, basically what they've relegated their strategy to is essentially saying, like, okay, well, the Republicans are gonna, step on the rake and hit themselves in the head. Like, that's literally the Democratic strategy. At this point, they're not offering anything. They're not offering anything. It's just those people are worse. I mean, like, again, it is true that the Republican Party is incredibly, not only just authoritarian, but scary stuff coming out of out of the Republican Party. That is not an excuse to not do anything, right? And that is not an excuse or not enough of an argument for what's happening right now. Yeah, he can't even pull ahead of that guy. Exactly. The wannabe dictator just for one day, okay? Just for one day. Then it'll be all right. As very famously known, all dictators, when they promise to relinquish power, they usually do. And even that may not be enough, correct? Which is why I've been saying this for months now. The Democratic Party needs to course correct, months ago. Okay? Months ago. But, if Biden ends up losing this, okay, he only has himself to blame, okay? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from, the blue, from the vote blue no matter who people. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from liberals either. I'll blame you. You're supposed to be out there fixing all this. True, Kraylio. I'll be right on it, okay? As soon as I end stream, I'll be right on it, I promise. I'll have all of this fixed by tomorrow, okay? By tomorrow, everything is going to be fixed. By me, one person. welcome. Yeah, Blue MAGA. That's right. Blue MAGA. Yeah, I don't want to hear it from them. In any European country, at least EU members, Trump would have been excluded now from the election. Just in the US, it takes 4 years to indict such a criminal. To be fair, like, I get it. I get it. Trump should not be running. Trump should not be allowed to run based on, the freaking Constitution. Anybody who aids and abets insurrectionary behavior is literally ineligible, but that's neither here nor there. But the reason why it's been taking so long, cases take long to build. Sometimes you won't hear about a case for years. And I imagine, and I hope, with such a high-profile case, they took their time to make sure they crossed their T's and dot their I's, because how embarrassing would it be if the prosecution took all this time, putting together these investigations? Because there's a lot of stuff going on right now, with not just like financial stuff. Never mind that, but there's the whole Trump defrauding, the United States because he, did the thing with the election stuff. In Georgia, election interference, all of that takes time. Those cases take time, and they would be pretty bad if the prosecutors didn't get this right. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with the cases taking 4 years. That's that's fine. But I do agree that he should not even be allowed to run. North is live. Welcome. Why did it turn into an emoji at Twitch chat? It just automatically does that. Look. See? But that would mean most of the GOP wouldn't be able to run. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Exactly. Perhaps not. Perhaps try not. Aiding and abetting insurrectionary behavior. Let's start there. I was having stream issues. No worries.
So I would hope very much that from certainly a policy point of view, from a moral point of view, the president stops giving a blank check to Netanyahu. And I would hope that they understand that from a political point of view, this has not been helpful. Quite the contrary.
And of course,
yeah, that's one way of putting it, right? This whole ethnic cleansing thing, not very helpful. This whole support and sale of arms that are currently being used to perform ethnic cleansing, not helpful politically. Even considering his high profile, sorry for the German, for my German, and tend to think from the EU perspective, it's an example of the failure of the U.S. justice system. Well, I mean, to piggyback off that comment, dude, anyone else would have been already in jail for the number of times this guy is being treated with such kid gloves. It's wild. The number of times this dude has like outright and blatantly disregarded gag orders and has been fined at this point half a dozen times, maybe, or just under half a dozen times. To my recollection, it might be more. But just under half a dozen times, this dude has been found to violate the gag order and has been ordered or slapped with fines at this point. Yeah, dude's been completely treated with kids' gloves. So to that, I say, yeah, I agree. Why would the GOP be banned? I meant the people, the people who aid and abet insurrectionary behavior are technically or should under the Constitution should not be allowed to run. Supreme Court is being very lenient to not give the idea of it being a political witch hunt. It's not a political witch hunt. The Supreme Court's job isn't to care whether or not, whether or not what Donald Trump says is true or not. The Supreme Court is there to determine whether or not laws are being applied properly or whether or not laws are constitutional. The fact that they even decided to take the case of whether or not a president has total immunity is absurd and is a testament to the failure and disconnect of the Supreme Court. We should amend the language to include those who are being investigated for insurrection from running for office. Yeah, I mean, like, you don't even have to be. You don't even. By the way, just to be clear, you know, for the clowns who are like, oh well, insurrection is not a crime. Yeah, it doesn't say you have to be convicted of anything. You have to be engaged in insurrectionary behavior, or aiding and abetting insurrectionists. So yeah, you don't even have to go that far. It's not about the Supreme Court. It isn't a constitutional but a criminal case. Right, but they can argue that you know, some sort of legal procedure is not being applied properly because of whatever. They can fight that, but at this point the Supreme Court doesn't need to be involved in any way, shape, or form at this time. Unless like we're talking about appeals to appeals. After the fact, then like the Supreme Court has no business intervening. Like the fact again that they took this case to hear arguments about whether or not a president has immunity is absurd. What are we talking about? The election. Yeah, exactly. Read the 14th Amendment, Section 3. So it states exactly, I kind of paraphrased it, but essentially, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, elector of president or vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state for that matter. Jeez. Who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or an officer of the United States, or as a member of the state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies of thereof. But Congress can vote, may by a vote of 2/3 to remove such disability. So another way of putting it, another way of putting it is, if you engage in insurrectionary behavior or have given aid or comfort to people who have engaged in insurrectionary behavior, then you should not be allowed. And specifically, it says if you've had taken an oath to the Constitution, which he did by being the former president, yeah, he absolutely should be disqualified. I gotta admit, I'm not entirely familiar with the details of the 14th Amendment, but I can read the text. But when it comes to the details, I'm out. Yeah, essentially, it just means that if you engage in insurrectionary behavior, or have given comfort or aid to people who have, then you should, and you asterisk, and you previously have taken an oath to the Constitution, then you should not be eligible to run effectively. Okay, good. I don't know. For some reason, I thought my bot was going a little weird, but it's okay.
Of course, Bernie,
anyways, putting the train back on the track
is exactly right. Based on all the data we were seeing, based on how Joe Biden won in 2020, with a lot of young people coming out to vote.
Yeah, and just to be clear,
look, I have to imagine that Bernie's having or has had.
Just to be clear, apologies for the visual lag. I need a new computer. Here's my yeah, go support the Rational National, okay? So David doesn't have to deal with this, okay? Please, those that can, go support the Rational National. I was tripping out for a second. I thought I thought my my YouTube was not working properly. Anyways. The 2020 election was unprecedented in turnout. That's why Biden won in the manner that he did. Okay. And it's not like they can deny they were there. The whole world watched. Right. They were streaming it. They were streaming it. It's not like we have like hundreds of hours of footage, hundreds of hours of worth of footage. Yeah. It's not like there were thousands of cases. It's not like they were, high profile cases where, leaders of these particular groups were convicted of sedition, to which Trump says that they're political prisoners.
These private conversations with Joe Biden, he has worked with him very closely on a variety of issues, especially as it pertains to workers' rights. For him to go on CNN and put this message out there, to me, says that Biden is not listening. That Bernie's trying to have this conversation and Biden simply does not care.
Yeah, which is not good, not great. Because it's the like from an electoral point of view that if Biden has any interest, if Biden has any interest of winning the election, he's not showing like he does.
This is, when you put a message out like this publicly and you know the guy you're talking about, that's typically what this means, is that there is a reason why he's saying this publicly, why he's willing to criticize Biden in this way and focus the conversation in a way that I really haven't seen, again, any other politician discuss. The comparison to the Vietnam War in terms of, or how it relates to the presidency. This is the reality with Joe Biden. From Truth Out Here, polls have found that public opinion has shifted dramatically against Israel since October, as Israeli forces have killed over 34,000 Palestinians with heavy use of.
Yeah, that. By the way, that number is very, very, very outdated. That number is very outdated. As far as we know, it may be double or more at this point. We just honestly don't know. When it comes to certain Republicans, those were friendly protests, a perfect example of denialism.
Of U.S. weaponry, which, by the way, this is
and it doesn't matter how many videos you show these people. Yeah, like we were talking about earlier. It doesn't matter how many videos you show these people. It doesn't matter. There's a wealth of information, and people will still choose to believe nonsense.
An out-of-date number, because there is no longer the infrastructure in place in Gaza to count the amount of people that have either been
right. Echo Rest of Dragon, welcome.
Been that are either casualties or injured in what's happening. So this is an estimate from, I believe, early March. We haven't really had an update since then. But going on here, with only 18% of Democrats approving of Israel's siege of Gaza and 75% disapproving, according to a Gallup survey released last month. And I'll get to that date in a second here as well. Young voters in particular are opposed to Israel's massacre. A January poll found that a plurality of people aged 18 to 29 say Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, with only 24% disagreeing. The dissent on U.S. policy in the Middle East has driven voters away from Biden, contributing to a plummeting approval rating among young voters amid the assault. Now, some people see this and think, what, they're going to vote for Trump, who might...
No, they're going to stay home. That's what's going to happen.
be worse on this, they're just not going to vote. They see two options who both are supporting these mass atrocities, and they don't want to vote for either of them. So this is not on young voters. This is not on voters generally. This is on the administration to make a major shift in how they are going about this. And that major shift would be end the funding. At the very least, have some conditions on it.
But it's not even like that big of an ask either, to be honest. It's not even that big of an ask. I feel so young. Definitely not in that age bracket, but let's go. I can neither confirm nor deny whether or not I fit that age bracket. Yeah. The youngest candidates are Cornel West and RFK, and they're both 70.
Because right now, it doesn't look like, it looks less like Biden's helping Netanyahu and more like Netanyahu is running the U.S. government. That's how this is actually appearing. And this is that change over time. So changes in views on Israeli military action in Gaza by Party ID. Do you approve or disapprove of military action Israel has taken in Gaza? You see a shift across the board. So even Republicans, their disapproval has gone up, even though it hasn't been a whole lot. But what Biden has to worry about, of course, is independents and Democrats. These right-wing voters are going to vote for Trump no matter what. It doesn't matter what he does. Biden has, again, if all you care about is winning an election, which hopefully you care about human life, but in lieu of that, because it doesn't appear Biden cares about human life, maybe he cares about winning an election.
Right, like despite that, because it's very clear that he doesn't. I don't care what he says. I don't care what kind of BS the press wants to, the press secretary on behalf of the administration want to put forth. It's very apparent that he doesn't. So in lieu of that, as David says, do you at least care? Do you at least care to even just win the election? Like, does power not matter to you? Because like, if it doesn't, then like, my brother in Christ, why are you even running? If you don't care about human life, then why are you even running? Because you're running a losing strategy. So if Biden finally changes his position on Israel, he'd increase his chance to be reelected significantly. I think there's a higher likelihood that does happen. Period. Full stop. It's just the right thing to do, anyways. But I think it would help. Although we're 6 months out. We're 6 months out to the election. Yeah, but his Zionist ass won't let him. It definitely would. It definitely would increase his chances. In the event that he does care about being reelected, on the assumption, on the hypothetical that he does care about winning reelection, yes, it would move the needle if he actually came out and said, "Look, this was a grave mistake. I'm not doing a single thing. I'm not doing a single thing for Netanyahu until he changes course. No more weapons. No more funding."
Based on this alone, he is losing a lot of people, his own voters. And this, again, this will be one of the main issues.
It will, because it affects enough in term. Again, this is only like electoral, because like it doesn't matter. What's right is right is right. Period. But in the case, in the case that he does care about winning the election, these are the people that you need to come out for you, and it's not happening. He's already done so much damage. I don't know if people would forgive him that quickly. Speaking for myself, I think I think he only did it for the votes. Which, yeah, honestly, that would be it. But in any case, it may be true that at this point, it may be too late. You throw the only Hail Mary you could throw at that point is the only Hail Mary that you can throw at that point is say like protests work, and under a Trump regime, none of that is going to happen. Does that make sense? The only Hail Mary at that point would be like, okay, protests work, but under a Trump regime, that ain't gonna happen. You can forget about that option. Also, a bag of weed for every American. The right to self-defense doesn't justify genocide.
You know, people think, oh, it's going to go away by November.
Nope. The people who think that, like, if things aren't already improving in terms of polls, again, we're only just talking electoralism right now. You know, if people think that the polls are going to be shifting in a significant manner in the next 6 months, unless something drastic happens, you know, I don't see that. I don't, which is why I'm skeptical. Which is why I'm beginning to get sketched out. The election is already really close as it is, and that's not good for the Democratic candidate. That's never been good for the Democratic candidate. When elections are this close, it doesn't favor the Democratic candidate. Especially when such a significant part of the Democratic base is telling you, hey, we're going to stay home. I don't think you understand what this means. We are going to stay home.
Why would it? Look at what's already happened. Those lives that have been lost are not coming back.
Yes, that's true.
Michigan is likely gone at this point, based on, you know, his numbers there and the Arab American population that is heavily concentrated there.
And that is a key freaking swing state, man. Jesus.
That state's likely gone. So there has to be a dramatic shift if he hopes to recoup what is ever left. And I don't know. The hope is that you have more politicians like Bernie go on meaty and continue putting this pressure on and do what they can. But you know, it's disturbing just to see, you know, forget about the election. I don't care about the election. I care about what is happening right now. And it's disturbing to see just the level of destruction this White House is willing to accept.
Yep. That's true. Very, very, very freaking true. Please help David Dole get a new computer. Okay, consider dropping by and helping the Rational National if you can. I think he does good work.
Last Friday at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, Jon Stewart actually performed a stand-up routine. This was part of the Netflix is a Joke Fest, and he's drawing some headlines for some of the things that he said. For example, he criticized Joe Biden's age again and kind of criticized the backlash that he received for saying what we all are thinking about Joe Biden's age.
Another good dude talking about a good dude. The Democratic Party needs some serious chance. Soon, better immediately. Yeah. Well, that is on the assumption that they want to win. Yeah, you would think they would remedy this situation, but you know, it makes you really want to wonder, huh? Makes you start to wonder.
but he also talked about hysteria over woke culture. And that to me is particularly interesting, and that's what I want to talk about today, because as a comedian, what he says is especially valid. And long story short, he basically says that this is much ado about nothing, and all of the comedians who are whining constantly about woke culture and leftist stifling comedy, it's all a bunch of nonsense. So the Hollywood Reporter explains, the comedian weighed in on anti-woke culture, saying he was so fucking sick of the idea of go woke and go broke. What are you losing? You can't say anything anymore. What do you want to say? Stewart said. Shut the fuck up. And by the way, the people who talk about anti-woke are the biggest fucking pussies you would ever find, specifically calling out the controversy surrounding Bud Light and its partnership with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney. I'm just so tired of it. The woke shit. You lose nothing. I'm a comedian. I've lost 2 words in 35 years, he said of phrases that are no longer culturally appropriate for him to say. Honestly, are you that fucking unimaginative that you can't figure it out? Okay, this is why Jon Stewart is the GOAT. It's because he is able to adapt and speak the truths that nobody else wants to say. These comedians, they come out here and present themselves as truth tellers for saying what nobody wants to hear when they're all saying the same thing. Jon Stewart, however, is adapting and reading the room and understanding the moment. And he's saying all these comedians that are complaining, in particular in that last paragraph, it's all bullshit. They're crybabies. They're the ones who are being unimaginative. Now, he is not necessarily taking shots at any particular comedian, but I'm assuming a lot of comedians heard that and they felt pretty awkward after, for years, many of them have been talking about how comedy is under attack and their free speech is being stifled. He's just calling bullshit on that. And he's right. Now, this comes after Jerry Seinfeld blamed the extreme left and PC crap for supposedly killing TV comedy, which is such bullshit.
True. The left has single-handedly destroyed comedy. The term wokeism isn't really an issue outside the U.S. Yeah, I mean, that's good to know.
Because when you have
that is good to know.
Shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and South Park and so many others that are still on till this day. Well, I guess Curb isn't, but you know, they're beloved shows. They're very, very edgy, very offensive, but they are able to exist. It kind of defeats this whole, oh my God, comedy's being canceled. We can't say anything because of woke folks. No, you can make edgy jokes. It's just like what you say matters, and you actually have to be funny and say something.
Hambliss with a tier 1 sub for 13 months. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Welcome.
But these comedians are too lazy to write better material, I guess. Now, I don't think that Jon Stewart necessarily was taking a shot at Jerry Seinfeld. I'm sure he wrote that before Jerry Seinfeld made his dumbass comments. But what Jon Stewart says here as a fellow comedian is really important, because he's saying the onus is on comedians to make people laugh. You can't blame the audience for not laughing and assume that they're too offended by your edgy jokes. It's your job to know your core audience and write jokes that speak to them. If you can't do that, that's on you, not them. If they don't laugh, that's your fault. Because as Jon Stewart put it, he's lost, 2 words over 35 years as a comedian? I'm assuming those words are the homophobic F slur and the ableist R slur. If you can't make do with all the other words you have after that, I mean, that kind of speaks to your ability and talent as a comedian, does it not? Now, with respect to Jon Stewart, I'm glad that he made that point, because he says he lost 2 words. But of course, as we can all tell, him not being able to say those 2 words specifically hasn't stifled his comedy in any way. He's as funny now as he's always been, if not better. But the difference between Jon Stewart and other comedians his age is that he's been able to grow and adapt. And that's important, because at a certain point, new generations will find your stand-up, and what was funny to your generation might not necessarily be so funny to their generation. Not just because your material is offensive or edgy, but because people just have different senses of humor. I mean, I'm a millennial, and you can already see differences between my generation and Gen Z.
I doubt anyone has ever come up with an exact definition. As far as I know, there is none. There is none. The definition of wokeness or wokeism is things I don't like. That's it. Things that I don't like. That's usually what it boils down to.
Z in terms of humor. So sense of humor is going to vary depending on the generation, depending on culture, and even depending on the particular period of time that we're all in and when somebody grows up. But rather than trying to understand younger generations and adjust their comedy to appeal to them, so many comedians these days just become curmudgeony old assholes who blame their inability to make people laugh on everyone else being too triggered or some shit, when that's just cope. Now, what's compounding this issue that these comedians are all talking about with regard to woke culture stifling comedy is that they're all in an echo chamber, reinforcing each.
Very true. Very true. I know what it is. It isn't like shooting puppies. Exactly. Onions are woke. Exactly.
Each other's bad ideas about the context within which they find themselves in. Rather than like trying to be introspective and realize we're all out of touch, they're all talking to each other and telling each other, no, actually, the kids are the ones who's wrong and we're all right. And that became especially clear to me because I saw something on an episode of the last Club Random podcast with Bill Maher, another out-of-touch comedian, and he was, of course, interviewing Jerry Seinfeld. And Seinfeld made a comment about or not about a recent segment, just about Bill Maher's New Rule segments in general. And what he said really stood out to me. So let's watch.
I think what stand-up is for you is what writing that editorial at the end of the show is for me.
Oh, okay.
That's what
that piece I never, ever miss.
Oh, thank you.
For the writing,
for
the flow of it. The consistency is shocking. Your level of consistency is shocking.
What? Sure, dude.
Okay.
Well,
and it's the best comedy monologue every week that anyone does, and you even make a point on top of being funny, which is
usually a point no one else is making,
except every Fox News host. Bill
True.
Maher's recent New Rule segments, by the way, include diatribes about how selfish and entitled anti-war college protesters are and why DeSantis was right about LGBTQ plus people being groomers. There's nothing subversive or edgy or funny or unique about Bill Maher's shtick. He's just a Fox News pundit, effectively, who tries to be funny. And throughout that interview, they were reminiscing about the good old days when people would complain less and whatnot. And it really explained so much because they're not only old and out of touch, but all of these old and out of touch comedians are continuing to jerk each other off about how right they are about everything and how wonderful their work is. But also, they've become insulated and they've put themselves in a bubble and they refuse to let anyone else kind of say something that resonates with them. It's just, no, I'm right, everyone else is wrong. And that is part of the problem. They're stubborn, they're digging their heels in, and rather than adjusting as Jon Stewart has, they're just saying, nope, we're right, everyone else is wrong. But I mean, it's natural to become out of touch as you grow older, especially if you're rich. But they refuse to listen. But I think that this camaraderie that they have with each other, that's kind of part of the problem. Not that
Bill Maher is a libertarian, which in the U.S. translates directly to a-hole. True. So you can basically define anything as woke. From now on, I consider anyone using headphones as woke. As you and I are both using them, we are both woke. Agreed. I agree.
Camaraderie and friendship is bad, but it's because, they're all in this echo chamber. This is why every fucking comedy special takes on the same tone these days, like Triggered by Joe Rogan or Cancel This by Roseanne Barr and Woke Up America by Rob Schneider.
Woke Up America. Sorry, Woke Up in America. Get it? Woke.
And it's also why they all keep repeating the same fucking pronoun joke again and again and again. They might think it's funny because they all encourage and validate each other, but nobody else thinks it's funny. In fact, I don't even believe that they think it's funny, because how can you find the same joke that's been told again and again and again funny? The same I identify as blank and my pronouns are X and Y. How can you find that funny if it's been told so many times? And do you not feel self-conscious as a comedian that you're perhaps stealing other people's jokes? That was originally a 4chan joke or a Reddit joke or some shit, and you dipshits keep stealing it and presenting it as comedy because you changed the subject or you changed like what your identity.
Justin. Yeah, we're gonna have to We're gonna have to go over this. I got something here. So this might tie into stop. This might tie into what that tweet was about. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about this.
Identifying as, but it's the same fucking thing over and over again. And it's unoriginal, it's boring, and nobody wants to hear rich people complain about how people with no money and no power are victimizing them somehow because they get offended by jokes when that's not really even happening, right? So last week we talked about Jerry Seinfeld and his comments. I'll link to that video down below. And I pointed to a clip from 2015 when Jerry Seinfeld was on The Late Show with Seth Meyers, or one of those guys. I think it was Seth Meyers. And the example that he gave of people who are offended by his jokes was a joke that he told about young people. They're just obsessed with their phones and they're scrolling on it like a gay French monarch or something. I don't remember the joke. But anyways, he said that nobody laughed, and it was because he assumed that people were offended. He said that he felt their thoughts and that they felt like, and he felt like they felt like he was being insensitive towards gay people and homophobic. But nobody actually said that. Like, this was something that he made up. He assumed that that was what they were thinking, when in actuality, I think they just didn't find the joke funny at all. But because they didn't laugh, he assumed that it was because they were woke and triggered or some bullshit. So I'll conclude by repeating what I said about comedians in that video. So the problem isn't that people are offended.
Firefly, welcome.
The problem is that comedians need to write better jokes, because having some variation of the I identify as / my pronouns are X and Y joke isn't funny. It's the same shit we've heard again and again and again. People aren't offended. They're just not laughing because you're not funny. And if you can't write better jokes that make us laugh, then I don't want to hear you whine about how you can't write edgy jokes no more, because the problem is you're not writing good jokes. The problem is your jokes just aren't funny. That's a you problem. Now you can keep coping and seething about how everyone's too triggered by your edgy content when that's not actually the problem. You're not cutting to the core of the issue here. But I mean, this is what Jon Stewart is getting at, and it's why he's relevant and they're not so relevant. I mean, you can't really say that Jerry Seinfeld isn't relevant or Bill Maher because they still have programs and whatnot, even though they've been canceled. But Jon Stewart is still funny and regarded as one of the best comedians because he's able to adapt, because he's in touch with what people are saying, and because he changes with the time. That's how you maintain relevancy into the future. And in fact, you don't have to do that to be relevant, because again, there's so many comedians who are spewing the same bullshit and they're still relevant. But I mean, if you want to be regarded as a good comedian, which I think is the goal, then write better shit.
True.
Woke mob. Woke.
That's called satire. You need to understand the joke in order to laugh about it. We're not uptight. You just suck. Exactly. If bands don't adapt, they die. How much more with count? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
On CBS's Face the Nation this past weekend, Kristi Noem was the guest.
You know, the very normal and very hinged governor of South Dakota.
Guest of honor. And, you know, she was asked, of course, about the story from her book about killing the dog. And then something weird happened. Rather than, of course, you know, trying to defend her dog murdering ways or maybe walk it back or soften it a bit. Nope. She decided to suggest that we should have more dog murder here in the United States, starting with...
Man, it just keeps getting worse, doesn't it? Right? It just keeps getting worse for this person. What an absolute psycho. Like unironically, to suggest that, like, now what we need to off Commander, the dog.
President Biden's dog. Yes, that is correct. Kristi Noem actually suggested that President Biden should kill his dog, for snapping at a couple Secret Service agents over the years. Here's how that took place.
Yeah, like, hey, maybe you should have some intense retraining, or maybe rehome to a proper, like, place where the dog would be happy. No, none of that. Just straight up, like, you know what, just off the thing. Jesus.
You had Margaret Brennan, host of Face the Nation. She said, quote, "You talk multiple times about it," referring to the dog killing. "In fact, at the end of the book, you say the very first thing you would do if you got to the White House that was different from Joe Biden is you'd make sure Joe Biden's dog was nowhere on the grounds. Commander, say hello to Cricket."
Jesus Christ. This person is like deeply unwell, and like I mean that like legitimately. Here in Germany we call a vet to put a dog out of right. Like, yeah, if there's no other choice, if you have absolutely no other choice, then the dog is not gonna get better, and they're in incredible pain, and it's just not. There's no other way than That's what that's what you do. You try to make sure that the dog suffers the least amount. That's literally like your job, is to make sure that your dog is as happy and as healthy as possible. Honestly, I feel like the Republicans have proved how much caring about any form of life with how they voted about the Moonshot program. Where's the fun in that?
Are you doing this to try to look tough? Do you still think you have a shot at being VP? And Noem responded, "Well, number one, Joe Biden's dog has attacked 24 Secret Service people, so how many people is enough to be attacked and dangerously hurt before you make a decision on a dog and what to do about it?"
Maybe find the underlying problems, because a lot of the issues you'll find, it's just like, it's just humans. It's just human error. What's the idiom or saying? There are no bad dogs, just bad trainers.
And then Brennan responded, "But he's not living at the White House." Because, as we all know, Commander was actually removed from the White House because he was getting a little too aggressive. However, nobody was like seriously hurt. So that's also important to remember. But Noem responded, "That's a question that the president should be held accountable to." And then Brennan said, "You're saying he should be shot?" And Noem responded, "That's what the president should be held accountable to. What is the number?" And I would say about Republicans criticizing me, these are the same Republicans who criticized me during COVID. They've criticized me when I've made other decisions in South Dakota to protect my state.
Dude.
You killed a 14-month-old dog because you couldn't train it. Some dogs are just not going to be trained to be the hunting dog you want them to be. They can be wonderful family dogs. Like, that's on you. That's not the dog. That is on you. But instead, you took the easy way out and said, screw it, I'm going to kill it. And now you're saying President Biden should kill his dog. Like, how many is enough? Like, you're asking how many bites is enough. Let me ask you, how many dog murders is enough? Like, how many dogs do you want to see die to justify your idiot?
Yeah, there's no evidence of any of that. Yeah. There's no stupid racist people. They're just Republicans. Yeah, dog murders. I posted a video of a pro dog trainer imploring people not to follow murderous. Yes. Dude, she really like yikes. Imploring people not to follow her example, even offering to help themselves.
Insane and inhumane positions here. That's what I want to know. Because it seems like Kristi Noem isn't just saying, well, sometimes you got to take care of the dog and just get rid of it. It almost seems like she just wants to kill dogs.
And any animal, to be honest. No animal seems to be off the table for this person. Hey, Jane Doe, welcome. Howdy indeed.
I mean, are you making a coat out of them? Do we need to keep all the Dalmatians away from you? I mean, we're dealing with a real-life Cruella de Vil here, folks, that just wants to kill dogs for the sake of killing dogs. But that's the modern Republican Party for you. Good job on killing your career. Today's video sponsor is Aura Frame.
Yeah, including humans. Jeez. We need to edit one of them old Bob Barker commercials. Like all I see is use spade or neuter your local Republicans. All right, folks, we got to run through some of these. Yeah, she probably needs it. No, she didn't even need an excuse. It sounds to me like she just wanted to do it. So Biden's seeking $100K for new cops. A lot of issues happening. Yeah, not surprising. Unfortunately, didn't he come out saying like all of this stuff was like, all of the protests, was a rise in anti-Semitism, yada yada yada. Yeah, so this tracks. It's not surprising. I didn't see that, but yeah, didn't like one of the first things. Oh no, I shouldn't say that. Wasn't like one of the things that happened during the early times of his administration. I think it was one or the second year. He like authorized by like some kind of executive order for more funds to be delegated to states for law enforcement. Yeah, like didn't he do that earlier in his administration? Like this tracks, to be honest. I didn't hear about the recent 36 billion for 100K cops, but it tracks. He's doubled and tripled down on that. Yep. Hey, Cognizant, how's it going? Yeah, because when rich people get nervous, you fill out your standing army. True. Yeah, so in case you were wondering what they were talking about, this is a statement directly from the White House. Directly from the White House. Like this isn't a news article. This isn't embellished in any way, shape, or form. This is literally their statement directly from the Biden administration. Quote, "We can't stop now. My Safer America plan calls on Congress to invest $37 billion to support law enforcement and crime prevention, including by funding 100,000 additional police officers for accountable community policing, investing $5 billion in community violence interventions, and enacting common sense gun reform, such as ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and a universal background check requirement." So this is what they were referencing. He's calling on Congress to do so, and he is backing the idea of putting $37 billion into this. Like, hey, real quick, how much would like universal health care cost? How much would universal tuition, tuition-free college would cost? Like, we're talking like priorities here, people. As said last time I was here, Biden's conservative. That is a conservative stance, is backing police even when the police are the problem. No doubt about it. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not gonna dispute that. All right, folks, we got to fly through some of these. Judge Cannon suspends key Mar-a-Lago deadline amid feud over evidence handling in Trump case. Judge Eileen Cannon, just to be clear, who was appointed by Trump, suspended a key deadline in former President Trump's document case after his attorney suggested special counsel Jack Smith's team had failed to preserve critical evidence in this case in response to prosecutors disclosing that some classified records may not be in the original order in which they were found. The suspension marks yet another delay in a prosecution where Cannon has yet to even set a new trial date, casting further doubts on the chances that the case will come to a jury ahead of the election. Yeah, this judge was appointed. This was a Trump appointee judge somehow allowing to judge a trial in which he is involved. Like, explain that one to me. Square that circle for me real quick. It's not how much it would cost, it's about cutting out all the middlemen, draining the funds away from the entitlements. It also scuttles an important discussion over which classified documents Trump and his co-defendants wish to use at trial, a battle now waylaid by the former president, even as prosecutors argue intra-box document sequencing has no bearing on how defendants will build their case. Yeah, like, again, when you know you have no argument, you attack the freaking process. You attack the process. And this is clear evidence of that. There's so much absurdity you can't even keep track. Yep, I mean, in the U.S., the chance of a minor getting killed by a gun is higher than in a traffic accident. As far as I know, there's only one. That's the only country in which this applies. Yeah, look up what's the cause of death. The highest cause of death in children. That I think is excluding. What is it? Highest. Yeah, something. It's here. In 2020 and 2021, firearms contributed to the deaths of more children ages 1 to 17 in the U.S. than any other type of injury or illness. The child firearm mortality rate has doubled in the U.S. From a recent low of 1.8 deaths per 100,000 in 2013 to 3.7 in 2021. The U.S. Has by far the highest rate of child and teen firearm mortality among peer nations, and no other similarly large wealthy countries are firearms in the top 4 causes of death for children. So yeah, cool, nice, great country. We got going on. Quote, it also scuttles an important discussion over which yada yada yada. Cannon did not set a new deadline on the matter, and settling how classified documents will be handled at trial itself could take months to resolve. In a Saturday letter posted to the court docket Tuesday morning, Trump's legal team pounces on the admission by Smith's team that the order in which documents were found may have shifted slightly. Quote, your failure to disclose the spoliation of evidence until this month is an extraordinary breach of your constitutional and ethical obligations, said Trump attorney Todd Blanche. So basically, they're trying to delay this indefinitely over a nonsense technicality over the records of documents. Yeah, and if you want to see it illustrated, thank you, Cognizant. America is the only place where you have a higher chance of being killed by a gun in school than 10 countries at which whole murders by gun added together is still less. Yep. So if more guns made a country more safe, the U.S. would be the safest country in the world. Yeah, but yeah. And that ends in 2020, right? Cool. Normal country. Normal and hinged country. So in other words, they are trying to delay this indefinitely over the sequencing of documents, essentially. And as this tweet posts, this is the presumed order, I imagine, from the court document. The court determines that finalization of a trial date at this juncture before resolution of the myriad and interconnected pretrial and CIPA issues remaining and forthcoming would be imprudent and inconsistent with the court's duty to fully and fairly consider the various pending pretrial motions before the court, critical CIPA issues, and additional pretrial and trial preparations necessary to present this case to a jury. The court therefore vacates the current May 2020, literally less than 2 weeks before the trial. Whatever. An associated calendar call to be reset by separate order following resolution of the matters before the court, consistent with the defendant's right to due process and the public's interest in the fair and efficient administration of justice. Cool. Again, Trump appointee, by the way, somehow allowed to make a decision, allowed to be the judge of a case in which he is involved in. Has just pure coincidence has now delayed the trial indefinitely. If the court was about fairly, Cannon would have been disbarred. Yep, for some reason it isn't, and maybe, really just maybe, Republicans would someday acknowledge that statistic. Well, we need to bring them back down to reality for that even to be a possibility. Well. Texas Representative Henry Cuellar and his wife are indicted on bribery and foreign influence charges. That's right, DNC candidate who progressives were skeptical about, and who the DNC decided to torpedo Cisneros' candidacy and instead went with this guy. The person Nancy Pelosi endorsed, is now indicted on bribery and foreign influence charges. The same dude who the pro-life Democrat. The Justice Department on Friday released an indictment against longtime Representative Henry Quinn. Also, just on a side note, is this the same deep state that is also just doing political witch hunts, or Cisneros is still fighting the fight? Well, she was when this happened. In the primary, when this guy ultimately won the primary, she fought it till the end. But this dude was the one that the DNC decided to go with, the one that Nancy Pelosi decided to throw her endorsement with, and ultimately the DNC pushed this dude in the primary. It was a very close race, by the way. I remember seeing her just starting out in the TYT interview. Yeah. And she was close. Make campaign and financial donations by firearm company and whatnot. Then Republicans may vote for common sense gun reform. Maybe. The Justice Department on Friday released an indictment against longtime Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas and his wife Imelda, charging the pair with bribery and money laundering related to their ties with a bank in Mexico and oil and gas company controlled by Azerbaijan. NBC News was the first to report that the charges were coming. The congressman and his wife were released on a $100,000 bond after a first appearance in federal court in Houston, a DOJ spokesperson said Friday. According to the indictment from 2014 to 2021, The Cuellars allegedly accepted roughly $600,000 in bribes from 2 foreign entities in exchange for the congressman performing official acts. The bribe payments were allegedly laundered pursuant to sham consulting contracts through a series of front companies and middlemen into shell companies owned by Imelda Cuellar, who performed little to no legitimate work under the contracts. In exchange for the bribes paid by Azerbaijan oil and gas company, Congressman Cuellar allegedly agreed to use his office to influence U.S. foreign policy in favor of Azerbaijan. In exchange for the bribes paid by the Mexican bank, Congressman Cuellar allegedly agreed to influence legislative activity and to advise and pressure high-ranking executive branch officials regarding measures to be beneficial to the bank. The congressman and his wife are each charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit bribery of a federal official and to have a public official act as an agent of a foreign principal, 2 counts of bribery of a federal official, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 2 counts of violating ban on public officials acting as agents of a foreign principal, 1 count of conspiracy to commit concealment money laundering, and 5 counts of money laundering. If convicted, they could spend years or even decades in prison. In a statement Friday before the charges were unsealed, Cuellar denied any wrongdoing, saying that he proactively sought legal advice from the House Ethics Committee, which had issued more than one written opinion about the matter. Much of his statement was focused on his wife. Quote, I want to be clear that both my wife and I are innocent of these allegations. Everything I've done in Congress has been to serve the people of South Texas. That's irrelevant. Bro, the actions I took in Congress were consistent with the actions of many of my colleagues and in the interest of the American people. Another way of putting it is most of Congress can be bribed. Jesus, that's not helping your case, dude. Anyways. Imelda and I have been married for 32 years. On top of being an amazing wife and a mother, she's an accomplished businesswoman with 2 degrees. She spent her career working with banking, tax, and consulting. The allegation that she is anything but qualified and hardworking is both wrong and offensive. None of the allegations say that she is not qualified or not hardworking. I just read it. So foreign influence from Mexico, yes, and Azerbaijan. Tunisian police that raid refugee encampment, hundreds reportedly bust and abandoned in the desert. Jesus Christ. F. Cuellar, I agree. This is so infuriating because they didn't even have to be in this position if they didn't do Cisneros dirty like that. So they can actually file charges when taking bribes. Looks at Clarence Thomas. Most of Congress can be bribed. Not exactly news, is it? No, it's not. And the fact that what is news is him being indicted. So that's something. Maybe it was too out there. And also I love his excuse. That's another thing to put. As a side note, the actions I took in Congress were consistent with the actions of many of my colleagues and in the interest of the American people. Consistent with the actions of many of your colleagues. Are many of your colleagues currently facing indictments for bribery? Because if so, then it appears to me that what you're implying is that many of your colleagues are currently committing bribery or being bribed, I should say. Jesus Christ. Yeah. The statement from the congressman's defense attorney was similar to Cuellar's, but also noted prosecutors indicted him just 6 months before Election Day. Yeah. Classic. It's a political witch hunt, right? The government's decision to move forward with charges so close to the general election and their decision to execute a search warrant 40 days before his election primary undermines the electorate and puts a thumb on the scale. Bro, that's just another way of saying this is a political witch hunt. And this is literally the same excuse that Donald Trump was freaking using. Come on, man. That's pathetic. That is freaking pathetic. I can roll a D4 and still roll a higher number than Republican senators that are not taking bribes. Unless you have a 0 or a 1, or you know what? I'll even say maybe 2. Then yeah. Come on. This is the exact same freaking excuse that Trump is saying, that this is a political witch hunt. that is tantamount to election interference. I need at least a D10 to roll higher than Democrats that have not taken a bribe. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, another generous, probably. And other top Democratic leaders have endorsed Cuellar's re-election bid last summer. In a statement, Jeffries spokesperson Christy Stephenson called Cuellar a, quote, valued member of the House Democratic Caucus, noting Cuellar is entitled to his day in court and presumption of innocence throughout the legal process. In the meantime, Cuellar will step aside from his position as the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Subcommittee, overseeing the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, this is wild. This is wild. Despite the raid, Cuellar narrowly defeated a progressive challenger, Jessica Cisneros, in his 2022 primary and went on to win the re-election to his seat that November. He didn't face any primary challenger this year and will be on the ballot seeking his 11th term. Yeah. That bribery is just another example of that pathetic, and I really got no other way to say it. What you call a democracy. No need to respond. We've discussed it before. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. It is pretty pathetic. Have to make jokes. At least we know he's efficient in acquiring. Have to make the joke. At least we know he is efficient in acquiring. Cuellar is facing a call to resign from a member of his own party, Dean Phillips, who said in a post on X that the Friday night that while the bar on federal indictment is high, trust in government is low. This is the same Dean Phillips that was running. Okay. That's why office holders and candidates under indictment should resign or end their campaigns, said Bob, including Bob Menendez, Donald Trump, and Henry Cuellar. Phillips, who was among the first to call on Menendez to resign, continued. Yeah, acquiring bribes, acquisitions committee indeed. I really need my soundboard. He's part of the acquisitions board and acquiring a bribe. I really need my soundboard. Oh man, this would have been a perfect opportunity for the brimch. In any case, nice. Good job. Good job, guys. You really know how to pick them, huh? You really know how to pick them. You had a progressive option, and you torpedoed that for this. Cool. Michael Hasser, welcome. Just got a severe thunderstorm warning from Environment Canada. We estimated to get 10 to 15 millimeters, or about half an inch of 0.4 to 0.6 inches of precipitation. Climate disruption at work. Jeez. Well, it is Texas, so we have to get someone close to Republican to have a chance. True, but I think that was a pretty wasn't that a pretty like safe blue district? Like he freaking sailed to election. I think that was a pretty safe blue district, wasn't it? I'll have to double check. I might be wrong. Not super blue? Gotcha. It's been raining here all day, which is good since we had a fire on Sunday. Sheesh. Welcome to Simulacra. I remember you telling us that on the Discord. I'm just glad everybody's okay. D+3 by the Cook Index. That's not super blue at all. I mean, think of cinema. No, I'd rather not. Seriously, if you're trying to escape climate change, move here. I don't think there is escaping that. There's only delaying it, right? Another potential VP pick. Fetterman is making cinema look reasonable. True. True. One of the things that's going to happen with climate collapse is the loss of the polar vortex. Yeah. If that happens, I assume you're talking about wildfire, calling it a fire. I actually don't know if it was a wildfire or if it was like just a fire that started in a building by whatever, human caused or not. I'm not sure. When the polar vortex, structural fire, got it. Okay, there's your clarification, not a wildfire. When the polar vortex is gone, polar winds will come down into the states. Yes, in fact, you could see that like throughout the years, like the way the polar vortex dips into more, you could see it like on the map, on the visual, how it dips further and further down. The jet stream. You could see that. So yeah, absolutely. This is something which is so unfamiliar here in Germany. I had to ask. Gotcha. Once the polar vortex is effed, I don't know about Canada in the winter. Everything's fine, folks. Nothing to see here. Don't pay attention to any of the new climate data. Don't look at it. I said floating island, move with the proper weather. Senator Tim Scott dodges on whether he would accept the 2024 election result. Yeah, another wonderful pick for a potential VP, huh? Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina on Sunday did not directly answer multiple questions about whether he'd accept the results, regardless of who wins. On purpose, right? You got to kiss the ring, you got to kiss the Trump ring. Quote, at the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Trump, said Scott. And the first time he was directly asked whether he would commit to accepting the election results on NBC News, Meet the Press. Asked again by the moderator, Christine Walker, to answer yes or no to the original question, Scott simply said, "That is my statement." Ah, man. They're going to cast doubt on the election even though Trump wins. Yeah, I mean, they did it in 2016. They did it in 2016 even though Trump won. Yeah. Even they did it in 2016. I should have won by even a bigger margin. They say the Democrats tried to steal and failed. Yeah, probably. That would not be surprising. Press the third time to answer the question of whether or not, sir, do you live in reality? Mr. Tim Scott, do you, sir, live in reality for the third time? Answer: I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. The American people will make the decision. Nice meme. Earlier this month, Trump himself told Milwaukee Journal Sentinel that he would accept the results of the presidential election in Wisconsin only if everything is honest, which is code for only if I win. If everything's honest, I'd gladly accept the results. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country. What? Scott ran for president last year, challenging Trump for the Republican nomination. He dropped out in November and eventually endorsed the former president. Now he's widely considered to be on the shortlist for Trump's VP pick. But following the 2020 presidential election, when Trump questioned the integrity of the election and baselessly alleged that voter fraud took place, Scott offered a different tone. Ahead of the January 6, 2021 congressional session to certify the presidential election, Scott said in a statement, the president's legal team exercised its right to access the courts by initiating suits in state and federal courts in numerous states. Some of those lawsuits have been presided over and adjudicated by conservative judges nominated by President Trump. Thus far, no justice, judge, or fact finder has found evidence indicating that the election results in those states should be overturned. And now he's saying that he's not going to answer that question. Yesterday, I read Umberto Eco's Fascism on Stream for a Reason. Yeah, if there was ever a time that this kind of stuff is pertinent, it is now. It is now. The parallels. What's the saying? History doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Before Trump, no one would ever thought of it. Now millions of people follow the cult he introduced. I will say he definitely elevated to the proportions that it is now. Yeah. Tim Scott. No, I live in Donald Trump's. I'm hoping to get a condo further up inside Colin. Even later on the campaign trail, Scott disagreed with voters who claimed that the 2020 election was stolen. I do not believe the election was stolen. I do believe that states created a new system, mail-in ballot. That's not. Stop it. Stop it. Mail-in ballots that did not have signature verification. Whatever, dude. This is mail-in ballots are not new, dude. After an audience member has asked questions about cheating in the election, Scott added, there was cheating, but was the election stolen? There's a difference. I think every election there's cheating. Bro, come on. Stop it. So far, we had a we have on one of the VP shortlists, or previously, we had a serial animal murderess, and current governor of a state. True, and a election denier, and an election denier for the VP spots. Cool. Nice. Very hinged and very normal stuff happening. All right, folks. That is all the articles that I had time to go over today. I'm going to bring in the temporary guest that is staying with us. You guys, the temporary guest that is staying with us. His name is gonna be Bob for now. I'll bring Bob in so you guys can meet him before he gets adopted out. Give me 1 second, folks. Let me bring Bob in. folks, this is Bob. Let me wait till these messages kind of float away. They'll float away in a second so you can see Bob clearly. There he is. Look at him. He is an absolute purr machine, by the way. He is adorable. Right? And yeah, he's a young kitty. I think he's like maximum a year old at most. And he's an absolute purr machine. Look at him. He is cute. He's just been hanging out with me, in and out during work, but this poor little baby boy showed up at our house. Yes, he did. And yes, he showed up in our yard, in our front yard, after a storm, and does not have a chip, does not have a collar, is not neutered, so he seems to be a stray, but an incredibly friendly stray. Or maybe he's just grateful he got rescued. I don't know. He is gorgeous. But that is Mr. Bob, and he's going to be with us for a few days. As you can tell, that's the reason why he's called Bob. I'm in favor of personal ballot on election day. There's a few people misusing the mail election, but to even think that could affect the outcome of yeah, it doesn't. What about Bob? Oh, such a sweet kitty. All right, there he goes. All right, folks, I got to get going. Thank you guys for hanging out and supporting the channel. Thank you guys for mixing it up in the chat. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hasser, for modding the chat. Thank you, Blue Brother, Heat, Michael Hasser, Jane Doe, Cognizant, Footlong, Redmond Berry, for mixing it up in the chat. Let's see if I make sure I got everybody. Firefly, the Simulacra. Thank you for mixing it up in the chat. I appreciate it. Did I miss anybody? Bipedal Meatbag, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all for hanging out in the chat. Thank you, Hambliss, for mixing it up in the chat and for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you for your support, your biddies, subs. Thank you. My kid slept through that whole stream. She's got the flu. Yikes! I hope she feels better. That's right. That's right. You posted it on the I'd say good night, but it's a good evening for you. Thank you. I appreciate it. They need to separate the fraud votes into 4 sections: intentional, unintentional, illegal to vote for Republican, Democrat, and posted numbers. Exactly. All right, folks, I got to get going. Food is here for me. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Again, don't forget, if you're on the YouTube, thank you for liking the stream. Sub to the channel. Don't forget, join the Discord, to join the Discord. And if you want to support the channel and wear some cool stuff while doing so, you can check out !merch directly to the merch store. I appreciate you guys. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all. See ya. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I am always Discord. I'm a being of chaos. All right, folks. Hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.